Hello and welcome to Boomer and Beyond Wellness, and I want to wish you very happy and healthy holidays. So today's workout is a total body workout with toys and joy to celebrate the holidays, and it will include supersets. So supersets is when we work two different exercises back to back without any rest. Now, the accessories we're going to be using today, folks, there's a lot of them. So welcome to exercise toys, okay? So let's begin. Well, sticky yoga mat we'll be using. We'll also be using a Fitball or a 9-inch Pilates ball. I'll also be using three pair of kettlebells. And I'm using today 10, 15, and 20 pounders. Also 2 pair of dumbbells, 10 and 25 pounders. I'm also using an exercise wedge. Now let me show you something about the exercise wedge before I return to the other accessories. First off, this is an exercise wedge. Here it is from the side. When you stand on it, you want your toes pointing down this way and your heels up here. But not everybody has an exercise wedge. So let me show you what you can do instead. I've demonstrated this before. You can take 2 dumbbells and set them right up against each other. Now when I approach the wedge or the dumbbells, I approach them from the front and then back up. So I'm going to place my heels only, not the arches of my feet, on the bars of the weight. I bring the heels all the way up to the inner collars, those heads of the weights. And I'll be doing something called an elevated heel Fitball squat, all right? So you have 2 ways you can do it. You can choose to sit back into a chair, or you can lean back and slide down the back wall. So what happens is I'm doing a lot more work on the quadricep muscles, and the knees are actually pointing straight down. So it could be a good option for those of you with knee flexion issues with bending of the knees. Now let's get these out of the way and move on with the rest of the accessories. So we will also be using a weighted exercise ball. I'm really getting into this lately, folks, because I'm real big about all the different accessories because it helps our cognition. Right? Now, I don't get into the whole neurological thing. I leave this up to doctors Scherzai, husband and wife neurological plant-based neurosurgeons. And I just get into how do we apply the science to actually doing the work in a simple way, a doable way. So just change up the exercise toys. Thus, I'm bringing in weighted balls. They're also called medicine balls, and the one I will be using today is 20 pounds. Also, I'll be using an exercise tube, also known as a resistance tube. I want to remind you that the handles come either hard handles or a slightly softer handle with foam. So if you have hand issues like Dupuytren's contracture, arthritic hands, trigger finger, etc., look for the softer handle. And I will also be using a knee pad because I want to come down to my knees for a particular exercise. I'll be doing a lat pull down, bent knee. But I find that my knees need a little bit more cushion, so I have just a thinner knee pad on top of it that I'll be using today. Now, this is going to lead us right into the medical disclaimers and precautionary measures. Blanket statement. If you have any chronic concern whatsoever, I invite you to preview the video before participating. Look for what you can do. However, if you're not sure, then I would invite the medical healthcare practitioner who knows your body best to preview the video as well to help you make an informed decision. Now, if you have a latex allergy, be careful, folks, because the yoga mat, the knee pad, the Fitball, the weighted ball, and the exercise tube are all made from some degree of latex. So do please look for non-latex or latex-free. Now, if you have any knee flexion issues, that's issues with bending your knees. Well, I've done this before. I'm gonna take you to the wall. I just gotta be careful how I step around here because there's toys all over the place. So, you're gonna do a wall sit, also known as a wall seat. You sit your back to the wall, all right? I've got my toes in the same line as each other with my ankles slightly forward of my knees. I'm lining up, ankles to the knees, all the way up to the inside of the high hip bones called the iliac crest. So you get to stay as high or as low as you want. I'm gonna stay here because there's a couple of other issues that this can help. So if you have spine flexion issues, and that's issues with bending down to pick up something, so it's forward flexion of the spine, right? Then you can use the wall as well because it'll keep you upright. Now, this could apply to, but not exclusive to, osteoporosis of the spine, as well as the postural deviation known as hyperkyphosis. That's the one kind of hunched in appearance. So what you can do is take a towel, roll it up, and I want you to place it behind your head, all right? Behind your head, not your neck. Because what may happen to those of you with hyperkyphosis, when you go to do a wall sit or wall seat, you're going to go into a forward head posture, known today as tech neck. Use the towel and it might be able to help you. So we just covered a couple of issues that can be helped by that wall sit. Now also, if you have carpal tunnel syndrome, you want to be careful because I see people when they work with exercise tubes and especially with kettlebells, I see a lot of wrist flexion. Doesn't matter where the arms and forearms are, folks. This is still wrist flexion, okay? So you want to make sure that you maintain a straight wrist. Now, if you are medicated or not for hypertension, have vertigo or GERD, you've heard me say it before, please keep your head neutral. Don't be dropping the head down. And that is forward flexion of the cervical spine of the neck. We want to keep it neutral. Now, conversely, those of you with TIA, transient ischemic attack, or a stroke, I need you to avoid hyperextension of the cervical spine of the neck. That's this. Now, is that going to bring on a problem? Are any of these things going to bring on problems for people? No, but this is to help guide those of you who already have these pre-existing issues. So for TIA stroke, please keep your head up neutral. For golfers or tennis elbow, that's medial or lateral epicondylitis, you need to be careful of both bicep and tricep work. Be careful of these because the symptoms could be really individual, can be very unique to each person. So you would need to find out a little bit more information from your medical doctor if the bicep tricep work is appropriate for you. And then finally, I think that's the last one I have for you. Yeah, finally, if you have valgus knee, that's when you go a little bit knock-kneed. I'm going to be doing a narrow front stance, I should say a front narrow stance squat. So I'm going to bring the feet, the knees right up against each other. Not you folks. You can bring your feet out wider apart. Now I just want to check if there's one other that I am forgetting, and I want to see if any of this would apply. Yes, okay, I was going to bypass something, but we caught it. So if you have any vestibular challenges with your balance, don't use the wedge. Don't push it, all right? And in fact, you can choose to even use the wall for support. And also maybe you can hold your hand to the wall or on a really heavy chair. But also, I would suggest you never work out alone. Always have a companion with you. So I think we covered all of them. Whew. All right, so some gentle reminders. Always feel free to stop and rest whenever you need to. However, I'm not inviting you to quit. So you stop, take a couple of breaths, and return to the work, even if it's for one more repetition. Also, do make sure you keep yourselves properly hydrated with water while you're working out. However, if you have been advised medically to avoid drinking a lot of water, maybe because of kidney or bladder issues, please follow that advice. Now on the channel, I want you to look for a warm-up and cool-down video. It's one video that I filmed because it is important for those of us 55 years and above to warm up for 10 minutes prior to any workout. And by the way, you can interchange the movements. The video is pinned toward the top of the whole channel. And then in the community tab, look for some reference screenshots from the video, as well as the RPE chart, the rating of perceived exertion chart. And this is a 0 through 10 subjective scale, and it's a great tool to gauge your sense of effort. For those of you, you can check with your doctors, show them this chart, who might be with a pacemaker or on certain medications like beta blockers, or maybe you just don't know how to take your training heart rate. So I do advise you to work out at an RPE between 3 and 6. And folks, you can download this thing and print it out and place it on your near your desk or wherever your device is when you're working out. Now, speaking of devices, if you have any neck issues, all right, and you're working out to any YouTube video, get your device off the floor, because you're doing this. You're doing forward flexion of that cervical spine of the neck. And the thing is, folks, oftentimes when you do it, you're gonna stress your neck out. You can even, it can be painful. And you might wind up blaming the exercise. So please, put your devices up at eye level. That's just an aside, but I think it's an important one. So what are we doing today with this total body workout with toys and joy for the holiday and our supersets? Well, I'll be teaching you 9 exercises, and we'll be doing them vertically. And we'll also be doing them one set, and a set is a group of 8 to 15 repetitions. Now, this is going to be your choice, because this is when I'm going to tie in that Fitball. The Fitball, folks, or the Pilates ball, they don't really have any weight, but what they're great for is they contribute to your form, especially if you're doing it unweighted. So try to use it as much as possible. If you don't have one, you can also use like a foam yoga block, just something to hold in your hands so you can focus on what you're doing and slow it down. Otherwise, well, you won't use the ball, and that's okay too, but just be mindful, slow the work down when you're not holding on to anything. Then after the vertical approach is when we move into the supersets, but this will be a little different. I hope this makes sense, but whatever. So I'll be doing 3 blocks of 2 exercises each. Then one block unto itself is actually going to be 3 exercises, because it's 2 exercises combined and then another exercise. Thus 9 exercises. I hope it makes sense. When we do it, I'm pretty sure it will. So let's move into how to stand when we're strength training. So you want to stand in an athletic ready stance. Now, I already pointed out to you at the wall how to sit at the wall. Well, kind of the same thing applies when you're standing. I'm going to place my hands on the high hip bones, iliac crest, and I'm going to point down, not in, straight down. And I'm lining up to my knees, down to my ankles. Toes are in the same line as each other. Knees are soft. They're not locked out, but they're not big time bent. You're not in a squat, all right? Now I'm going to turn to the side for the females in the house in particular. Be careful, because we like to do this when we're standing and working out. We like to tip the pelvis forward. It's called an anterior pelvic tilt. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is actually a subtle posterior pelvic tilt, also known as a pelvic tuck. So let's begin. Our first block is going to be, I'm going to grab the Fitball for this, a front narrow stance squat. When we do it full out, we'll be using the kettlebells, and we'll be doing this with a bent knee front lat pull down. So that's when I'm gonna go down here. But I'm not gonna do that yet, all right? So this whole first vertical approach will be standing to help those of you new to exercise, new to strength training, and who have chronic concerns. First exercise, front narrow stance squat. So I'm gonna turn just a little bit diagonal. Feet together. Who doesn't do this? Valgus knee. Separate the legs. Now I'm gonna hold the ball right up near my chin, but I have to be careful because I have the microphone here, but you can really touch yourself and actually put the ball right up under at your chest as well, particularly your sternum. So the toes are lifted inside the shoes. Why? I wanna strength train my shins, which is going to help my balance and help my knees. Now inhale, I sit back into a chair. Exhale, I come up into a subtle posterior pelvic tilt. Squeeze the glute, engage the quadricep muscles. It's a tiny hip thrust. Don't do a big one, folks, okay? Inhale, sit back. Exhale on the effort on the way up. So all of the breath is in and out through the nose. The other reason why I want you to slightly lift the toes inside the shoes is because when you lift up, you're lifting up from the heels, really engaging that entire posterior extensor chain of the body, the back erectors, the gluteals, and the hamstrings. One more. Inhale, exhale, pause. Now I'm going to set the ball down. And I'm just going to bring my legs a little bit wider than I normally would if I was standing to do this, but I want you to see my hands overhead. So I'm going to bring the arms up. Lat, short for latissimus dorsi muscle, the swimmer's muscle. So I'm going to, as if I'm holding on to a bar. And on the exhale, I'm going to pull it out and in. And inhale to come up. Exhale, out and in. When I do that, folks, I'm really focusing the work at the scapulae, the shoulder blades. And we're also working the posterior deltoid muscle, upper back muscles like the rhomboids, of course the lats, and also the biceps, because this is a pull movement. Let's do two more like this. Inhale, exhale. Be careful, TIA stroke. I am not dropping my head back. Pause. And slowly lower. Now, for the next block, we will be doing them with dumbbells, not right now. So I'm going to grab the ball, though. So we're doing deadlifts with a chest press. That'll be done with the weighted ball, but we'll be using this. I'm not going to go to the bench for the demo. I'm going to stay upright. So I want to show you the difference between a basic squat and a basic deadlift. So, because they're very similar and people kind of mush them together, all right? So let's lift the toes. I'm just going to bring the ball back here. You can bring it out in front. You can bring it overhead, whatever you like. So I'm going to sit back into the chair. That's the basic squat. The feet are not together, okay? It's not a narrow stance, just one more like this. Now, I'm going to lower the ball, keep the toes lifted, and I'm going to hip hinge, not sit back into the chair. Hip hinge, inhale, exhale, same thing, pelvic tuck squeeze, because again, we want to drive up through that and engage that posterior extensor chain of the body. And you want to take your time. Folks, I do a lot of concentration in my workouts on gluteals because, let's face it, in the aging process, a lot of times females fall because of weak glutes. Not all the time, but absolutely sometimes. Exhale, pause. And one more, we also want you to be able to bend down, pick up something of weight, and get back up without an issue. And again, this is with the weighted ball chest press. Now, I will be doing an incline chest press. I'm going to show it to you both ways if you don't want to do the incline. So athletic, ready stance, opposite movement. We're going to push. We're going for a push now. So I'm leaning back for the incline chest press. One more, push. Now I'm gonna face you and go straight out in front. Push. So we're working the pectoralis major, the front or anterior deltoid muscles of the shoulders, and we're pushing out, therefore, tricep muscles, the back of the upper arms. One more, exhale, push, and slowly bring it in. For our next block, we have the elevated heel Fitball squats. I'm holding on to the Fitball. I'm grabbing my wedge, and we'll be doing this with this combination of a bicep curl and an Arnold press, working with kettlebells. So I back up. Now, when you place a ball between your legs, make sure the plug is not touching your skin. I'm not going all the way up the inner thighs. I'm keeping the ball a little bit down by the inner knees. So I'm going to hold here. I'm going to demonstrate it both ways. You can sit back into a chair. I'll do one more like this. Let me really squeeze that ball. It's a little too far back, it'll pop out. And I'm going to now do leaning back, all right? And sliding down the back wall. Inhale, exhale. So by squeezing the ball, you're also engaging the hip adductor muscles of the inner thighs. Remember, you can use the weights, the dumbbells, and stand on the bars, the little handles. A couple of more repetitions like this. One more. And slowly up. And the next exercise, I'm going to put the ball down, move this out of the way until we need it again. So this one, I'm going to also go a little bit wider here than I normally would. So we're going to take a basic bicep curl. Now turn the palms forward all the way up. As I come down, I turn the palms back in toward me, lower down. Bicep curl, Arnold press. Lower, curl, press. Pause. Now remember, we talked about this exercise might not be great for those of you with golfer's or tennis elbow. I'm going to show you one other thing you can do right after this as an alternative as well, all right? And also for those of you medicated or not for hypertension, may have been told not to do anything overhead. Last one, let's take it up, down, like so. You folks could do this as well, folks. You can do delt abduction, ABD, going away from the midline of the body, or delt adduction, ADD, going toward the midline of the body. Now notice I avoid going all the way here, because when I come out to lift, well, the first 10 to 15 degrees of the movement, I'm going to be on that rotator cuff muscle, particularly the supraspinatus. So let's go here instead and avoid it, and this will take us to that middle head of the deltoid muscle. Exhale, pause, inhale, exhale, out and up. Let's do one more. So we just threw this in extra, but I want you to have that alternative. All right, now for the final block, we have kettlebell RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. So I'm going to grab the ball, and we're going to do this with a tricep overhead press, also known as an overhead extension. I'm going to keep the ball for that as well. Difference between an RDL and a basic deadlift. Well, just for our purposes here, I'm just bringing my feet wider than the hips just to vary it up for us. Let the ball hang down and exhale. Remember, it's a hip hinge. You're not sitting back into a chair. And when I have the weights and kettlebells and all that stuff, I'll show you different angles when I can. Inhale, exhale. And are you breathing? You don't want to hold your breath. When you're strength training, you could falsely elevate the blood pressure. Pause. One more. Exhale up. Oh, I love this movement. Okay. And now the tricep overhead press. Careful. Those of you with neck issues or medicated or not for hypertension, vertigo, GERD, keep your head up. The tendency is to drop the head down for this exercise. So I'm going to bend the elbows and take it up. We want the elbows pointing to the ceiling. This is how you really engage those tricep muscles. So 7 out of 9 exercises today are compound movements, meaning working multiple large muscles and multiple joints simultaneously. This is not one of them. Exhale up, inhale down, one more. And slowly lower in front of you. All right, so I'm gonna set this off to the side now, folks, because we want to keep it a little less congested. It might roll toward us, but we're okay. So let's begin with the equipment. So this is going to be a kettlebell front narrow stance squat with a dumbbell bent knee front lat pull down. So I'm set up over here. I have my 15-pound kettlebells, bringing them out in front. Narrow stance, who doesn't do this? Valgus knee, doesn't do a narrow stance. Okay, here we go. Inhale, sit back. Exhale up, pelvic tuck squeeze. Oh man, feels great though. Don't forget that pelvic tuck squeeze at the top. Toes are lifted inside the shoes if possible. Pause at the peak. One more. Oh yeah, and hold carefully. Lower them down. I want to make sure they don't rock all over the place on my bench here. Hold steady. Okay. Here we go. We have the lat pull down with bent knee and pull. Out and down and in. So I'm using 10-pounders here. Ooh, yeah. One more. And slowly down. So remember, you don't have to come to the floor if that's a challenge for you. Just stay upright, no big deal, okay? And back to the kettlebells, yay. I'm gonna go a little bit on a diagonal for you. Okay, toes lifted, belly button in. Inhale, sit back. Exhale, up, pelvic tuck squeeze. One more. Oh yeah. And slowly lower them down. I'm just going to set these down for the moment. And back to our lat pull down. Supersets, right? Now the thing that makes this so challenging and so much work on your core is because the hips are not really involved here, folks. I mean, a little bit, but they're not like big movers here, right? So when we stand and do our work, the hips are involved a lot. One more. Oh man, I feel it. I do feel it. Okay, I'm gonna set these off to the side. I gotta be respectful. I have a neighbor downstairs, so I don't wanna clank the weights on the floor. Okay, for the next block, we have the dumbbell deadlifts. I'll be using 25-pounders, and we're using the weighted ball. So let me put the ball up on the bench to have that prepared. Okay, thank you for not rolling all over the place. And let's get these out of the way. And let's grab my 25 pounders. Just always want a safe environment when you're strength training with a lot of stuff. So this is going to be the deadlift. Okay, basic deadlift, toes lifted, right? Remember, hip hinge, inhale, exhale up. Two more. Hold there. Now, carefully set them down. I'm going to come around here now to the bench. I'm on an incline, so I'm doing the incline chest press now. With a 20-pound ball, I just have to be careful I don't bang it into my microphone, setting it up. Okay, puff up the chest and push. And push. You want to aim at a point on the ceiling and try to touch the ball to that point. Arms up, working the pectoralis, anterior deltoid, triceps for sure. But folks, when you work with a ball like this, lots of forearm, wrist, finger, hand work as well. Oh yeah. Going for two more. Carefully lower it down. Let me make sure it doesn't slide. Okay, and back to the deadlift. I'm going to give you another angle here, okay? The legs are not together. And I gotta be careful. I do sometimes do a little bit too much of a hip thrust. One more. Okay, now you will find that because there are a lot of compound movements here, that you will be elevating the heart rate and the rate of breathlessness will naturally increase. Don't be alarmed, this is natural. Okay, let's make sure no microphone issues. Okay, puff up the chest. Now my shoulder blades are drawn down and in toward each other. There's a bit of an arch in the mid to lower back area. This is appropriate for this particular exercise. Exhale, push. Watch that as you lower, control it, and no collapsing of the chest in either direction, especially right here. I see a lot of times people sink the chest. That would be the abdominal muscle pulling you down. 3 more. Easy does it. Okay. Let me set the ball down, folks. Okay. Okay, now for the next block. So we're on our third block. We have the elevated heel Fitball squat. I'm using dumbbells. I'll be using 25s with this, with the wedge, kettlebell, Arnold press, and bicep curl, 10-pound kettlebells. So let's grab this thing. Then we'll grab that Fitball and go for the weights next. Okay, remember, no plug aimed at your skin, all right? Keep it away from your skin. Okay. And I'm gonna walk in front of it. I'm starting to sweat, so my glasses are sliding. Okay. Your choice, arms plugged into the shoulder sockets, belly button in. You can sit back into a chair to come up or lean back. Oh man, I'm leaning back. Inhale, exhale. Oh yeah, it's talking to me. Notice I get really quiet when I work. One more. Woo! Quads are talking. And careful. Now careful. You don't really want to waddle around with your Fitball, okay? But I can't help it because we're filming here, okay? But be careful of doing that. I'm going to move this out of the way for the moment, grabbing my 10-pound kettlebells. Excuse me. Here we go. Curl, press. Bicep curl, Arnold press. So much work on the forearms here as well. And a lot of core. I find kettlebell work outstanding for core work. Core does not only mean your abs, right? So remember, you can choose the delt abduction, adduction for the issues we spoke about just before. One more. And down. Ooh la la. Okay, now back to the wedge. Fitball. Weights. Okay. And we're going to back up. Make sure your heels are on that wedge, okay, as much as possible. And I'm going to slide down that back wall, squeezing the ball the whole time. You could sit back into a chair if you prefer. Whew. Oh my goodness. So yes, I have had clients with the knee flexion issues, we talked about it before, who have said to me, this is more doable for them than a regular squat. You know, it depends upon how you feel, right? One more. Ooh la la. Carefully coming over here. I'm gonna set the weights down. I don't want to clank it down too hard for the neighbor. And let's get this out of the way. And let's grab here. Safe space, safe space. Most important. I'm gonna go a little wider, a little lower. Yeah. Too much. I gotta go narrow here. Here we go. Otherwise, it's messing with my Arnold press a little bit. One more. Ooh la 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 la. Okay, and now we're on our last block. We have the kettlebell RDLs with the tube tricep overhead extension. I'm going back for the 25-pounders. Oh no, kettlebell. That's right, I'm going back for the 20-pound kettlebells. Okay, so feet a bit wider than the hips, toes lifted, and hip hinge. You gotta watch that hip thrust stuff. Just keep it small, Angela. Absolutely my favorite exercise for gluteal work is an RDL, especially for females. One more. Hold there for the moment. I'm going to set these up here, make sure they do not fall off. Okay, let's grab the tube. Now, When you work with the tube for this exercise, I'm going to work with a slight split stance, and the arch of the shoe goes on the tube. This way this thing won't slide out. It's a subtle split stance, folks. It's not like a big lunge or anything, okay? But I want to make sure, now it is, even on both sides. And let's bring the arms up, overhead, and here we go. Keep that head up. No looking at the floor, look out in front. Ooh la la. Last one. Easy. It can really snap away from you, right? So just be careful with that. And back to the kettlebells. I'll face you. Come a little closer. All right, here we go. Always the hip hinge. I'm gonna go a little more narrow. I'm not feeling that. What you see is the right glute as much as I'd like to. My real left glute. There we go. I feel it. Stand tall and proud when you rise on up out of it, folks. One more. Ooh la la. Whoa, that's talking to me. Okay, and now back to the tube for our last exercise. I think I'm gonna face you for this. Yep, okay. A little bit of a split stance. Let me get fully on camera with my feet. Okay. Or enough of it, the front foot at least. Two more. All the way up. Oh, wow. Yeehaw, folks, yeehaw. So now I want to offset some of this forward flexion work. I'm going right for some back spine extension. It's a bit of a back bend. Feet wider than the hips, okay? And I'm placing the hands on the sacrum. Carpal tunnel syndrome. You need to bring the hands down to your thighs so that your wrists stay straight. Otherwise, you're in a wrist extension. So I'm bending the knees for the first part of this. And I'm thinking I'm sliding one side of the sacrum down toward my heels than the other. It doesn't slide, but that's just my image. Remember, TIA stroke, just keep your head like this. Keep it neutral. Once you feel you've gone to your depth, okay, whatever it might be for you, and you want to drop the head back, provided you don't have any neck issues, feel free to do it. Oh, God, I love this. You can also straighten the knees. Inhale, head to neutral. Exhale, come all the way up. I'm gonna do a little bit of a hula or a belly dance. Oh, it feels fabulous on the lower back. But take your time, let it really happen. Have some fun with it. It's not this, it's not this. You wanna isolate all of this area and reverse direction. One more round. Lovely, and now I'm gonna push the walls away. Carpal tunnel, be careful here. You're gonna straighten those wrists and reach out through the middle fingers. When you do your stretches, you wanna hold them. When you do them on your own, you wanna hold them for a good solid 20 to 30 seconds, unless you're doing dynamic work, and that's appropriate too. So I'm drawing the palms right up against each other, shoulder blades retracting, opening up the pectoralis, anterior deltoid, lengthening those biceps. Now maybe you're doing this thinking, oh, I'm going so far back. No. So what you want to do is take your exercise tube, all right? This is perfect for it. And bring it behind you. Hold on to it, but make sure your hands are wider than your shoulders. And all you're going to do is glide the knuckles along the floor. We don't want to overreach. It's not about how far back you can go. It's what you can handle in alignment. And folks, this will help you open up the chest, the front delts as well. So that's what we have for you for happy holiday season of 2024. I want to thank you so much for all of your support and encouragement. It really means a lot to me. And please feel free to subscribe to the channel, to share the videos, give it a kind comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you would like to subscribe to receive my monthly newsletter, you can go to my website, which is boomerandbeyondwellness.com, and just /subscribe, and it'll take you right to the newsletter, and you will receive a workout video that I designed specifically for those of you who did subscribe for the newsletter. I really appreciate it. So until next time, eat your greens, eat your beans, drink your water, have a happy, beautiful, joy-filled holiday, I should say, a joy-filled holiday season. So see you soon. Thank you so much.